So hello everyone and a warm welcome to this virtual session about SAP Cloud ALM. Mainly we will speak about integration and exception monitoring in this session. So therefore I will introduce myself. My name is Markus Bechler. I'm the responsible product manager for integration and exception monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM as well as in SAP Focus Run, which is another solution in our application lifecycle management area. First of all, I have to simply show the disclaimer because things which are shown in the presentation or in the demo can be changed by any time. So therefore, that's necessary. I just prepared a small agenda for today. We will spend a few minutes for SAP Cloud ALM for operations in general. There I will give you a short overview about the available capabilities which are there. We will talk about integration exception monitoring in detail. There we have also an overview part in it, and then we will simply deep dive into the things which we developed 2022. There I will spend the most of the time in the system and will show everything what we did last year in a demo. Afterwards, we can simply quickly go over the slides, which I showed already then in the demo, and I will give you a short outlook what you can expect from integration exception monitoring this year. SAP Cloud ALM for operations. From an overview point of view, it's our central operations platform for cloud-centric landscapes. As you may know, in the past, we simply had our classical SAP architecture in place where we covered one business process. Here in this example, you see the lead to cash process, which was covered by mainly two SAP on-premise systems like SAP CRM and SAP ERP. So we had one simply system border between the two worlds, and we could monitor everything what was exchanged there, and it was really easy to identify integration-related problems here. Which challenges we see today? So with the transformation from the more classical approach to a more intelligent suite architecture, we see simply a distribution of the business solutions. That means one business process can be handled via multiple small cloud services. Here, this example, you see that the lead to cash process is now handled by different SAP solutions here, which are running on the business technology platform. There could be also some other systems in place in this business process, and it makes it even harder to find the integration related issues if there is any issue happen during the processing. We have a kindly increased complexity here to find the issues and to analyze the root causes, and we have definitely seen a higher need to consider the business processes end to end. What are the answers from Cloud ALM perspective here? We offer to you as a customer some or many applications in Cloud ALM for operations which can be used for different purposes. So first of all, we have a business process monitoring established here, which can be used to analyze the business process executions. There we simply deal with KPIs, which are visualized in our application, and you can deep dive into the business process executions here. We have the integration exception monitoring application available, where we will maybe mainly spend the next couple of minutes to explain what you can expect from there. We have a synthetic and real user monitoring application available, where you can simply see real user performance issues. And we offer also job and automation and health monitoring applications to you, where you can understand the health of jobs, for example, or tasks, or also application services and systems. It's a kind of system monitoring in the past, so only for the cloud services today. What SAP Cloud ALM for operations is about, you can see here on the left-hand side our inbound integrations. So we have simply the opportunity here to get metrics, configuration items, log entries, events or alerts from different systems or services. We have then our applications which will be which will consume those inbound integration events. Here we have the business process monitoring, the synthetic and real user monitoring, health monitoring, and so on and so forth. And you can see here in green the integration exception monitoring application. So we will mainly receive events and metrics from different cloud services and systems, and will handle this then in our application and will visualize to you what's happened here in the integration related areas. Then we have a so-called intelligent event processing engine within SAP Cloud ALM for Operations. That's mainly for processing the events. That means in the end, if an integration breaks in your landscape, then we can define here in integration exception monitoring and event handling. So that means if we detect an erroneous integration, for example, then we can raise an event. We can raise an alert out of an event, so that alert is simply posted to the alert inbox. We can send out an email notification via the notification management. We can start an operation flow with our operations automation capability to simply start the problem resolution here. On the right-hand side, we see also our outbound integrations. So as I already said, we can simply send out emails at the moment via the notification management. In the future, we will also have the capability to simply send a notification via Microsoft Teams in a chat channel, for example. We can already create tickets in the ServiceNow ticketing system. So there we have a native integration established. We can also build some tasks. We can simply expose analytical data. That means if you have a Grafana instance, then you can also use the data which we expose from SAP Cloud ALM for Operations to build your own Grafana dashboard with the KPIs which are available through the outbound API. On top of it, you will find so-called business service management, which holds everything together in terms of service level management or business service management. And we have in addition also the event calendar available, where you simply see if a system is in a downtime, for example, you can schedule there an event if you have an own downtime. And you will also find the SAP events in the event calendar. If you have a SAP cloud integration tenant, for example, from SAP, and there is a downtime scheduled for this particular landscape or for this particular cloud integration suite tenant, then you will also see this event in the event calendar, and you can then simply react on it and can see why maybe the data is not being processed properly. With that, we will simply jump to integration exception monitoring. What is integration exception monitoring about? We simply have the goal to ensure a reliable data exchange between cloud services and systems. As you can already see on the screen, it doesn't matter if the system is hosted on premise or it is a cloud service which is hosted on the business technology platform, for example. In the meantime, we can collect data from nearly every cloud service which is available for you as a customer, and also for the big on-premise solutions like S/4HANA on-premise and process orchestration. We are also able to collect data here. What do we do here in integration exception monitoring? As you can imagine, maybe on the field class side, there will be an external worker requested from a business user, and they have to fill in some things and then simply has to process this external workforce order. This workforce order will be replicated to S/4HANA Cloud and to the SuccessFactors tenant through a cloud integration tenant. And now in every system, we have simply a kind of message log, which is available for us in integration and exception monitoring. And we simply collect those informations from every tenant. So in case of SuccessFactors, for example, we get the data pushed. In case from SAP Fieldglass, we will pull the data from them. So that's our two approaches to simply receive data from the cloud services or on-premise services. We can either push or pull the data, or we get the data pushed. After we have everything stored in our database table, we can simply visualize the data which is available from the cloud services, but this I will show later in the demo in deeper detail. As you can see, also, if we have a cross communication between the cloud world and the on-premise world, here in this example, we are talking about an Ariba order, which is being processed via SAP process orchestration through to SAP S/4HANA on-premise. Also, this data can be retrieved during our pull and push mechanism, which we are implemented in the last couple of years, so that we are able also to get the information into our application. What is in for you in our integration exception monitoring application? We offer an overview across all cloud services and systems. So that's mainly a kind of overview page, which you can also personalize to your own needs. That means in the end, you can define your favorites. You can select an own scope for you if you are only interested in a few systems or only interested in one particular scenario. Then you can configure this overview page to your needs. And every time you will enter the application, the same overview page will be shown up so that you can simply work as fast as possible with our application. We try to offer an end-to-end monitoring by correlating single integration artifacts to end-to-end message flows across components and cross technology. That in the end means that we use a kind of correlation information which is transferred via the HTTP header in the message log informations. We collect this information, and with this information we are able to determine the target or the source from a certain message, and we can simply visualize this then in a nice way in the UI, but I will also show this in the demo. We support complete message flows processed by orchestration platforms as SAP Integration Suite, as well as support of peer-to-peer interfaces. So means in the end AIF messages, for example, if we are talking about SAP S/4HANA Cloud. In this screenshot, you can see the message correlation. So this is completely automatically built. If you enter a message, then we simply try to find the related messages to it, and we'll visualize this in the three boxes here. We offer a kind of Google search where you can simply search for certain business context attributes or message attributes. So if you have, for example, only an order number present, which is not being processed in your ERP system, then you can simply use this order number to go to our search and track page. You can paste the order number there. And if the order number is existing in the message payload, which we also retrieve from the applications, then we can simply also show that the messages which we have found where we have detected this particular order number. We have embedded monitoring overview of the occurred exceptions also in cloud services or systems available. So that's an own page for the exceptions because our application is called integration exception monitoring. So therefore we have also a part for the exceptions available here. In the exceptions overview page, you will also find the cards and tiles for the services and scenarios. And from the card, you can then simply deep dive into a certain exception category and can see which exceptions are occurred in the last 24 hours. You see small analytics capabilities here with this small tiles in the top of the page. So there you can see how the evolution is for a certain exception category, for example. We have for sure an embedded alerting available. So that means we have an own alert inbox in our applications. So where you can work with, that means then in the end, if you get an alert email, you can simply direct jump into the alert inbox for integration exception monitoring, and you can work from there with the alert and do the necessary steps to simply confirm the alert or to resolve the alert and start particular steps to do this. In the alert inbox, you have some more functions available. So you can simply assign a processor to the alert. You can forward the alert to someone who is responsible maybe for this alert. You can see if a ServiceNow ticket is created here, and you can also see if there's any operation flow automatically started by the alert, for example. But this has to be configured by you as a customer. As I said, we can have an integration with operation automation. So that means we can trigger operation flow context sensitively to the alert. For sure, in integration exception monitoring, we are dealing with millions of messages. So you can imagine that the data volume is very high. So therefore, we simply have the data only present for the last 14 days in the application. So after the 14 days, we simply keep the data. That means we aggregate the data to aggregated stores in our database, so that we simply minimize the necessary data volume, but without losing the RCA context. That means in the end, you have in the future the possibility to use the embedded analytics capability, which is planned for this year, where we will simply enable you as a customer to do the root cause analysis based on historical and aggregated data. So to identify trends and compare different time periods. For example, you can simply then compare your CPI throughput from the last 12 months, for example. With that, I will directly jump into the what's new in 2022 section. Here, I will now switch to the browser and will simply start the application. As soon as you order a SAP Cloud ALM tenant via the SAP For Me portal or via our homepage, you will simply come to a launchpad like this. Here we have the different flavors of Cloud ALM available. So you have a part for implementation, our part for operations, and the Cloud ALM for services here also available. If you click on Cloud for ALM for operations, you will simply see all our available applications. On the left-hand side, beginning with business process monitoring, and then we simply add a second application here, integration exception monitoring. With a click on the tile, we will start our application in a new window. And here, if you start the application the first time, you will not see any card here because you have to define your scope first. We have for this available our so-called scope selector, which is reachable via this small target button here in the top shell bar. With this, you can simply say, what is your scope? You can define, I want to see the business services, I want to see the services, or I want to see the systems, or I want to see everything together. Then you can simply mark all three checkboxes. You have to click on go, and then you will simply see, okay, there are 314 services, business services and systems are connected to this particular tenant. And then you can simply make your selection of your choice. And with apply, you will simply see the tiles then applied to the overview page. Sorry for the interruption. For this, I will just close now because I already chose my scope a long time ago. You can now see here that we have two tiles available for scenarios. So we have one scenario tile external workforce here, and we have one tile for the Ariba network scenario available. And then we have also some cards available for single services like Integration Suite, Cloud for Customer, and SAP SuccessFactors. If you click on the star, for example, then we simply mark this tile as a favorite, and you will see it also in the favorite section. So the favorite section stays forever. As soon as you enter the application, you will directly see the favorites in the bottom. And you can also work only with this. As you can see, there is also an S/4HANA Cloud tenant available in my favorites, which is not available in the overview because I didn't choose it via the scope at the moment. That was also one new thing which we introduced last year. So every application in the operations area has the same approach, that we simply start every application with the overview page, and the overview page looks very similar to every application in SAP Cloud ALM for operations. From here, we can simply pick now a scenario and we can go to the details, because that's the second investment which we did last year. So we did a user design research and refactoring here. So means we have our topology view in the bottom. We have a summary view in the top of the page, where you can see how many messages are exchanged in a certain time frame. We always start the application with the today time frame. That means from 12 o'clock in the night to now. But you are allowed also to simply use another time frame as you like. For example, yesterday, last hour, last 8 hours, this week, last week, or the last 14 days, which is simply the maximum because of the housekeeping things. Then you will also see the exceptions for the particular scenario. So if we have also enabled the exceptions collection for those services, then we will also see how many exceptions are occurred here. And we have an alert counter available, which is also clickable. So you can directly jump to the 5 alerts, which are context relevant to the external workflow scenario in this case. If I click now on a bubble here in the topology view, then I will simply see which categories are enabled for this particular service. And for this field class service, we have now only enabled the message category. SAP field class messages are the only one category which we collect from field class. Exceptions are not applicable at the moment to field class, for example. If we go to the CPI tenant, then we will simply see we have integration suite messages here. And in this case, we see also some exceptions which are getting collected from the CPI. So here we mainly collect integration artifact deployments. If there is some deployment which is in a failure state, then we will see it as an exception on our side. If we go to the S/4HANA Cloud tenant, then we will see that here the AIF messages is enabled as a category, and we have 2 different exception categories are enabled for this S/4HANA Cloud tenant. Let's go back to the field class tenant. From here, I can now navigate to the so-called summary view. If I click simply on the category, then I will directly jump into the summary view of the field class messages we are collected in a certain time frame, as I said already. And here we introduced also last year a kind of visual filter bar, so you can use this for filtering, and it's also a kind of a small analytics thing where you can see how many messages by a certain name are collected or which types are available. So for example, here I see we have only 1 error message, but we have 6 work order messages and only 1 work order revision message here available. If I click on the 6 work order messages, for example, then the table will simply filter to the filter here in the top, and you can then also do your normal work with the messages. From here, we can simply deep dive into a certain message by click on the arrow on the right-hand side or by click on the message ID. That's now the next thing which we completely changed last year. So this message detail view was completely redesigned last year and was also released last year in the third quarter. So we have here present the status details for a certain message. So that means that are the header information of a message. So we see the event time stamp. We see the status text, which is simply delivered by the cloud service. We have a message status available. We can jump to a local monitoring tool if we get the information from the cloud service. So that means in this case, we can directly jump context sensitive to the field class message in the field class system. And then we have in addition some application data available. So this application data is mainly defined by the cloud service. So it's in the responsibility of the cloud service to define which data is important to the customer. And then they can simply send us this data in addition, and we will visualize this here in the application data section. You can see here that we have a name. So that's a work order, which was created on the field class side. And we have the reference number. That's then simply the work order ID, which is used on the field class side. If I scroll down here or close the sections, then I see a new section, related messages and exceptions. Here we have now the perfect example of our automatic correlation. So I simply went to a certain field class message, and we automatically fetched also the correlated messages from the CPI tenant and from the S/4HANA Cloud tenant. So that means those messages are belonging to together in the end. And from here, I can also see now the other messages. If I click on CPI, then I see in the table below that we have some related messages. Here we have some purchase order status replications, and we have also the initial replicate purchase requisition iFlow, which was used to replicate the work order from field class to S/4HANA. If I click on S/4HANA Cloud, then I'm in the same process. I will see the related messages and can also see here what is the status of this messages, and can also click here on a certain message, and then we will simply bring the same data as you just saw for the field class message for the particular message here for the S4 message, for example. That's our scenario view. As I said, we have also the possibility to drill down into a single service, so that we will simply do right now. I will here go back to our homepage, and I will simply go to the CPI tenant. You see here that we have exceptions and messages. As I said already, from here I can simply click on messages, and I will directly jump to the message summary view. And now you can also see that we have different visual filters here enabled per category. So in the case of integration suite messages, you have the possibility to filter by artifact name, to filter by the messages by package ID, and so on and so forth. And here, if you click on more, you will simply see which artifacts are already detected by us. And now, for example, I'm interested in the field class iFlows. I can select this, and then I simply see that we have 5 messages collected from this particular artifact or iFlow. And from here, I can simply navigate to the message ID itself. And then I see always the status details now context sensitively to this integration suite message. From here, we have also the possibility to jump directly to the CPI tenant, also context sensitive. You see in the application data now different data because of the different category. So here we have integration artifact name, a correlation ID available. We have a local component, and so on and so forth. But the important thing is now I simply chose a single service and picked the right message now. Yes, of course, for the field class scenario, but in this case also we have a correlation here where we simply also found the correlated messages here. So there are the same messages available, which you simply saw a few seconds ago. And from here, you can also navigate through the messages. You can see the field class message. And if I go here, for example, then we will simply see that this is the message for a few seconds ago. So that's how you can simply work with the application. Now on the overview page, there are a few more things which we also enhanced last year. For example, you see a small calendar icon here on every card. this calendar icon is simply coming from the status events. So that means if there is a service degradation or a disruption scheduled for a certain service, then we visualize this also on this card. For example, here there is a disruption simply available since 1 o'clock today afternoon until 5 p.m. in the evening. So for this particular tenant, that means we can see maybe some messages which are not being processed correctly, but then you simply see also the reason for not seeing the messages properly here in this case. If you see a green icon, then everything is in normal operation status. As soon as a cloud service is in a downtime, we get this data pushed from the Cloud Availability Center, for example, and we will directly show this status also here in our cards for a scenario, if the service is part of a scenario, and of course also for the service itself, if it is chosen from the scope selection, or if it is already a favorite from your end. If we jump directly to the open alerts from the scenario card, then you will see that the context is set to the external workforce scenario. So, and you see now only the 5 alerts which belongs to the external workforce scenario. From here, you can simply deep dive into the particular alert. Here you can see what one was the alert created initially, one was the last update to this alert, and here in this case we have one message which is still in error state since a long time now. You can decide, okay, I will confirm this alert, I will add a comment to this alert, I can set a processor, I can remove a processor, I can send out a notification to someone to simply say, please check this alert from your end, and you can also start the operation flow. Here you can simply also go to the ServiceNow tickets. If there is a ticket created already on the ServiceNow instance, then you will simply see here also the ticket ID, and you can also directly jump then to the ServiceNow instance from here. Let's go back to the homepage. As you can see, or as I said already in the presentation, we have an own overview page available for the exceptions. Here you can simply also enter the overview page for the exception, and you can see there are our two scenario cards available. You see also a trend here on every card, if the exception counts increased or decreased. And from here you can simply go into the exception category, and then you will see, okay, my exceptions are being higher during the last 24 hours or the last 7 days. And from here, I see also the error message, which was raised by the component. And here I can also drill down into a certain exception to get simply more available information. So in this case here, an iFlow or an artifact from the CPQ is being deployed, and there was an error during the deployment, so that has to be fixed. And as soon as this artifact is deployed correctly, we will also simply see that the exception goes from red to green. So that means that we have here a feature also enabled, which is called stateful exceptions. You will always see if there's something changed, and also the corresponding exception will be changed. Then let's simply pick just the one thing I have to copy, I forgot it, the work order ID. And with this work order ID, I will show you the tracking page. So you can enter the tracking page here. You have to choose a managed component. If you will search in the managed components, then you have to select managed components. And if you want to search in a certain business service, then you have to select the service. In this case, I will now search for this work order ID only in this external workforce scenario. I will press enter here, and then I simply see the field class message here. And I'm not sure why I don't find all other messages. Maybe there's only one message available. In theory, you should also see the S4HANA message and also the CPI message. Maybe there's just an issue ongoing. But if I go from here to the message itself, then I will simply see also the related message here. And in this case, we have now a successful message on the field class side. We have a successful message on the CPI side, and there's one erroneous message detected on the S4HANA cloud. It means that this particular work order is not being processed successfully on the S4 side. And I can now go simply to the S4 message and can see there's a technical error occurred, and there is an overflow converting from 100. I'm not sure. So now someone from the business has to check this and to fix this so that we can simply replicate the work order again from field class to S4. So that's how you can work with the application. That's also in a nutshell what I want to show during the demo, and I will now switch back to the presentation. And here I will just go now through the news in regards to the user interface. As I said, we have a new scope selection available where you can simply choose whatever you want from the system services or business services or everything together. So that's now possible with the new scope selection. This was not possible in the integration exception monitoring in the past. So that was also one thing which we did last year. As I showed you already, we have the newly designed overview page. We have the newly designed topology view with the summary information in the top of the topology view. We have the right side panel where you can quickly see the activated categories, and you get a quick overview about the current status from the message perspective, which we collected from the service. And also if there are exceptions available, you will see the exception count for this particular service. We have the summary view completely redesigned. As I said, we have introduced this visual filter bar, which can be used then for filtering the table below. So it's also a kind of embedded analytics that you can simply see how the artifacts are distributed, for example. We have the message detail view, which is also redeveloped last year with the sections and also with the related messages and exception component, so that I showed you already. We have the new exception page, which was also introduced in last year. And now we also developed some new features, which I didn't show now in the demo, but I will go through this features in the slide deck here. We have the possibility for iDocs and web services, which we collect from on-premise services or on-premise systems, that you can define additional payload attributes. Per default, we are not collecting the whole payload from an iDoc or from a web service. So because of volume reasons, data volume reasons. But if you need some more attributes, then you can simply configure this in our application, and you can simply say which segment name, which field name is necessary, and then we will collect also this additional fields, additional attributes during our data collection, and then you can use this information also in our application to search the parameter in our tracking page. We have the status events, which are available now on the overview card. I showed this already to you. There you can see if a disruption, a degradation, or a maintenance window is planned for a certain system. So this is also available since end of last year. As I said, we have the stateful exceptions feature enabled. So that means if there's the integration artifact deployment on error, and if you fix this on the CPI side, then you will see that the number is decreased, or if there are more artifacts are getting in an erroneous state during the deployment, then the exception number will simply increase on our side. a completely new feature which came in really end of last year, and it's not available for every scenario and every service, is the so-called view-related exception part. We will have more and more from this in the future. That means from a message perspective, if we detect a message which is an error state, or where is also an exception occurred during the processing, for example, an ABAP dump or an application log entry is written during the processing of a certain message, then we will also try to simply visualize this related exceptions so that you can simply see, okay, my message was broken because of an exception which was raised in the application log, and then you can also use this information to further analyze the issue. Which is also available from integration exception monitoring perspective is an outbound API, as I said in the beginning. So you can use the data from integration exception monitoring through our outbound API, which is available on the API Business Hub, to also feed in the data into your Grafana instance, where you then can simply build external dashboards and so on and so forth. So also there is data available for integration exception monitoring. But as I said, we will also bring in an embedded analytics capability this year. So both ways then are usable for you as a customer. From content perspective, we introduced last year the whole Ariba content into integration exception monitoring. There are still some pieces missing, which we will hopefully fix this year. So, but from overall perspective, we have the biggest Ariba component supported already. The cloud integration gateway from Ariba is supported. Ariba sourcing, Ariba procurement, and the Ariba network is already supported, and we will enhance this content also this year. Then we simply introduced business by design as an own category and own content. So if you have a business by design tenant, then you can also connect the business by design tenant to integration exception monitoring and can use it to monitor your messages which are being transferred in business by design. And then in December last year, we also released finally the content or the process orchestration, process integration content. So you are now able to simply connect an PI system, a standalone PI system on Java towards integration exception monitoring. And then you can also do your monitoring for this PI messages from the process integration system. What is on our roadmap for 2023? We have simply planned to develop a completely new search and track page, which is more user intuitive, where you can simply search for more things in the message content and in the application data section. So this page will hopefully be released then in the upcoming months. We will introduce an own page, an own object view for master data. That means if you have some replication scenarios for your workforce person, for example, enabled, or for your cost centers and so on and so forth, then you will also have the possibility to use this object view to see a replication for a certain object. So you can enter the application then with an object ID or with a workforce person ID, and then you will simply see if the corresponding object is distributed to my system probably. We will allow you to copy existing scenarios into new scenarios. This function is not available right now, but it's was a wish from many customers to have this functionality. So therefore, we will have this also available this year. We will do some improvements to the current alerting integration. That means we will maybe enable you to also define the content which is written into an alert email, so that you can simply use the alerting integration for email, for example, also to your needs. And then on the exception management, we will introduce a kind of sporadic aggregation of exceptions in case we simply have many exceptions in a small time frame. So then we will simply have an on-the-fly aggregation for exceptions. From a content point of view, we are more or less complete from the major solutions within SAP. As you can see here on the left-hand side, we have still some things planned for 2023. That's more or less Analytics Cloud, which we will enable this year. We will have support for the logistics business network. We will have the SAP data intelligence available. The event mesh will be available this year. More solutions in the consumer industry cloud will come to integration exception monitoring. And also for Ariba, we have certain enhancements planned from a content point of view. With that, I'm at the end of my presentation, and I say thank you for your attention.